witches. I'm Dawn Black, the editor of the Wikipedia, and today we're going to talk about engaging with the magical community. This is just a guide for new witches for to connect with um, their to find their tribe. Um, this is the second in my series of videos for new witches. You can see the schedule at community.wikipedia.com and see what's coming up, or you could just subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the little bell so you will get notified next time. I upload I upload these chats 2 to 3 days after the live stream. We also have text chats on Discord as well as virtual circles using Discord voice, and you can find that schedule and the Discord link at community.wikipedia.com as well. This video is made possible by my patrons at Patreon, and I want to shout out to my newest patron, Becky. Welcome to my Patreon, and don't forget to vote for what Yuletide craft I'm going to do live. And the Yuletide broadcast. And that all being said, I will jump in. At some point in your exploration of witchcraft, you're probably going to start longing for like-minded people to hang out with. If you're new, you might be searching for a mentor to show you the ropes, or you might just want to find some like-minded people to socialize with, or maybe you would like a coven or a circling group to give you that sense of belonging and structure that structured community gives. The first thing you need to know is that it is okay to practice alone. You do not need a coven to practice witchcraft. There are many resources online and in print to help you along your path if you are unable to find an official in-person group or individual to teach you. If you are comfortable alone, there is nothing wrong with that. If you really long for company, that is also totally normal and good. We are social creatures. But connecting with a new community can be very intimidating. The magical community is a whole new culture. It's got its own jargon, its own faux pas. It also tends to be a little secretive, not as much as it was in the past. You don't tend to see a lot of neon signs flashing, witches gather here. Um, they they do pop up from time to time. If we're honest with ourselves as a community too, we will acknowledge that we do tend toward gatekeeping, which can be its own obstacle toward entering the community. We have our own jargon, a confusing collection of accepted and apocryphal history and morality. We do tend to use these things to weigh the worthiness of the newcomer. So it can be intimidating. And I get that. And there are also, we also, being honest with ourselves, there are also predators among us, looking for people who are so eager to be witches that they will do anything to get it, or naive enough to believe that there are certain things that are accepted in this culture, because it is a subculture. Um, People that will believe that there are certain things that are accepted in this culture that truly are not okay with the majority. Witchcraft does demand you step outside your comfort zone, so sure, why not? Why not step a little further outside your comfort zone? But there is a difference between challenging newcomers and abusing newcomers. And there's a difference between stepping outside your comfort zone and stepping into the danger zone, you know. So I don't mean to scare you, um, but there is a balance, and there are some things, to think about there. There are lots of good people in the magical community. And there are safe people that aren't safe to be around. And this is the same in every community, really, especially a community that is like a sub community in the culture. Um, and there's also well meaning people who just really want to help, but their tone is going to turn you off. And very sweet people who will lead you down unwise paths. And unfortunately, this is common. Our community has, and this is common in many communities that have a history of persecution, as our community does. We do tend to close ranks. Um, it's not unique to our community, of course. But the good news is the magical community has become much more open and has gotten bigger and less tolerant of nonsense in recent years. So really, you have a much easier time today than when I first started looking for community about 25 or so years ago. When you kind of had to have an invitation to get into an event, not every event, and you didn't always necessarily know what you were going to either. If you tried to talk about magic on the internet, there were people who used to say that technology would steal your power. Um, and if you tried to open up a conversation by outlining your experience, you might have been sneered at for being elitist. But if you were too eager and enthusiastic, you might get called a fluffy bunny. I have not seen these things in the community in many, many years. Things have gotten much more accessible, much easier, and I think that you'll have a much easier time connecting um, if you go forth. Uh, there are many more public events, not this year, obviously, but there's so many online events. Um, if um, and it's probably easiest and safest to connect online, provided you practice your usual online safety guidelines. Um, Anytime that you're connecting with people, you want to be safe, no matter who you're connecting with. There are lots of witches streaming workshops and rituals online right now, covens, temples. I know, uh, okay, I lost the word. You can find them on Facebook. You can find them on YouTube. They're on Eventbrite. They're on meetup.com. Or just use your favorite search engine. Use the keywords witchcraft, Wicca, pagan, witch, magic with a K. If you want something local, you want to add your state or city to that search. There's also a bunch of witches on Discord. You can find listings for those at disboard, disboard.org. And we do have our own Discord server for the Wikipedia, and we do have virtual circles for new moons, full moons, and Sabbats, as well as themed text chats every week if you wanted to get involved with that. If you are looking for in person gatherings, which will start happening again in a few months, I imagine, you will also find those listed on Eventbrite, Facebook, and Meetup. But your best bet is to visit your local metaphysical shop. Just open up your favorite search engine, type in metaphysical shop, your town's name, crystal shop, your town's name, spiritual gifts, your town's name. Check out their website, see if they have a calendar. They often do. Many metaphysical shops host events in their back room or they sponsor events that are held elsewhere. Many have a bulletin board that people can post flyers on. So don't just look at the website. Go in, say hi, introduce yourself to the shop owner, buy a little something for yourself to support this incredibly valuable community resource. Of course, right now, you need to shop online for the most part. Do that too. Metaphysical shops are not just where you buy your cool witchy stuff. They can be central to your magical community. They often run on a shoestring budget, so I encourage you to give them your business. I know that I told you in the last video that you don't have to spend a bunch of money on fancy tools, and I stand by that. But your metaphysical shop is loaded with books and fun gift ideas, jewelry, shiny things, and probably rents out space for events in its back room when we're not having a pandemic. And fancy tools, which I also said you should absolutely get them if you want them, you just don't need them. Um, of course, remember when you're meeting folks in person that you need to be safe. Don't agree to meet any one person in a private place. Many folks, as I mentioned, do meet in the shops. Um, I wonder actually how different things are going to be after things open back up again in 100 years. After the apocalypse, I don't know. So, uh, uh, you also get gatherings at parks and other public spaces, including libraries, community centers, coffee shops, restaurants, and pubs. Some communities have pagan temples and churches, so definitely keep an eye out for those too. Remember that when you meet new people, you have the right to choose and enforce your boundaries and do what you need to do to feel safe and to be safe. That means that if you feel uncomfortable in any situation, you can just walk away. It's like a blind date. Don't be afraid to cut it short and lose their number. Witchcraft and magic and paganism are all very individual, so you're going to get all sorts of personalities and energies, and they're not all going to be right for you, and that's okay. Remember my first video about getting started in witchcraft, I said you have to figure out your own energy first. Listening to your gut when you're finding new people to hang out with is part of that. And this leads me to a very important piece of advice that I did not follow for many years when I was young and insecure. You do not have to be friends with anybody just because they're a witch or a pagan and you're a witch or a pagan or a part of the magical community. You don't have to like them. You don't have to give them the benefit of the doubt just because they're also a witch. You don't have to go along with their schemes. Does that make you feel like you'll never find your tribe? I do not mean to make you feel that way because you will. There are as many different personalities, witchy personalities out there as there are witches. And your witches are out there, I am sure. Back in the day, it really felt like if you couldn't fit into the first group you found after months of searching, you would never belong anywhere. But nowadays, another group is really just a search engine away. So be picky. You and your group will actually work better if your energy is in alignment. If you um, are not feeling the way they do things, if you're not feeling the way they, even the language that they use or the their attitudes, if you're not feeling that, you're going to interfere with their magic, and they're going to interfere with yours. So just don't, just move on, find somebody else. It's fine. It's okay. Um, so another concern is etiquette. You may be feeling, well, I'd like to go to this event, but I'm worried that I'm not going to act right or I'm not going to wear the right thing. I'm going to offend them and they're not going to like me. Um, Usually, the announcement, whatever you get a flyer or whatever, will give some clues as to what to expect. There will usually be times listed for various parts of the event. Like, for instance, it might say 6 p.m. gather, ritual at 7, cakes and ale at 8, um, or, fellowship at 6 and ritual at 7, or something like that. Um, it may also say something like come as you are, ritual attire suggested, or even clothing optional. Um, well, let's start with attire. Come as you are generally means that whatever you want to wear is fine. I personally feel it is more respectful to be clean and neat, and there may be some granny types like me looking over your glasses here saying, if you show up in torn up jeans. But really, come as you are means come as you are. So wear what feels comfortable to you. Um, Ritual attire or ritual garb are the special clothes that you wear that make you feel magical or witchy, or perhaps even worthy to approach the gods and or ancestors. For some of us, it's a whole outfit. For some of us, it's something like a cloak. I personally just have a special necklace that I like to wear, though I do like to dress nicely generally. If I go to a Hellenic pagan ritual, I wear all white as well as my necklace because all white is what is prescribed for that particular group. Some people enjoy the ritual of putting on makeup and braiding their hair as part of the pre-gathering prep, and that I would argue is all part of the ritual. It's part of ritual garb, and putting on your ritual garb is part of your ritual. And ritual helps you slip into the right headspace for magic, so it does deserve some attention, whatever it means to you. Some prescriptions, some traditions prescribe specific ritual attire. So you want to check with the host to see if there's something specific that's required. But if it says suggested, that means it's optional. So you don't have to worry about wearing the right thing, just wear whatever. And bonus points if it's ritual garb, even if it's not the right ritual garb. If it says required, you might want to make that phone call. But that doesn't usually show up in public announcements without a little more detail. Clothing optional sounds scary, and it can be scary. And if it's scary to you, then don't go. It's okay. You don't have to brave naked people to be a witch if you're not into it. You can, if you go to a clothing optional event, you can wear clothes or not. I do suggest ritual garb if you do wear clothes. If you are super uncomfortable with the idea of seeing other people naked, or if you don't think you can be around unclothed people without staring or snickering or otherwise being inappropriate, you could stay home. There are other events. In my experience, clothing optional events tend to have a variety of clothing options happening at them, from completely new to various creative uses of the sarong, to fully clothed individuals carefully looking straight into everyone's eyes. And that's all fine as long as everybody's respectful of everyone else. Now, if the announcement says sky clad, that means fully nude, generally everyone. You don't see that in public groups though. There are naturist groups, and that would be advertised within the naturist group. So if that's what you're into, look for add naturist to your searches. And next, we're going to talk about the time thing. Pagan Standard Time, or PST, is an internal joke in the community. It implies the pagans are habitually late. I feel like the reason for this is because historically, when we were gathering, there were so few of us far between that many of us were traveling from far away, and the further you travel, the more things can go wrong. So, but yeah, it's a problem, and it's not cool. You can be late for fellowship. You can be late for the meet and greet, the pagan picnic, the witch's ball, or whatever, but you can't be late for a ritual. We can't stop a ritual for the late people. It breaks the flow of energy and it just messes everything up. If you show up late and the ritual has already begun, it's really not a big deal. The polite thing to do is wait outside, well away from the gathering until it is complete, and then join in the eating and gossiping that will, of course, take place afterwards. If you call and let the folks know that you're going to be late, they might hold it for you. But I am going to peer over my granny glasses, and I'm going to say that people who showed up on time do not deserve to be inconvenienced for someone else who didn't. If someone's going to stand around waiting, it shouldn't be the people who were on time. You can spend time setting out food or something while you're waiting for them to finish up. It's okay. People show up late. Nobody's going to hate you for it unless you burst in on the ritual and say, hey, I'm late, guys, I'm here, yay. No. So that's the only thing. Some groups will let you in. Some groups don't. And either way, the best thing to do is just to wait outside until they're done. So I'm going to circle back. I'm going to check my comments first. Yes. Lori says they will find their way into your life. You just have to be aware and open to it. This is true. They will find you. They are looking for you, and you are looking for them, and you will absolutely run into each other. And just be aware that not everybody is them. You'll know. You'll know. Um, so yeah, so we're going back to how to find these gatherings in the first place. Remember, I'm going to say it again, support your local metaphysical shop. They know what's going on in the community, and they deserve your custom. Also, search engines are your friends. Facebook lists events, so does Eventbrite and Meetup.com. You probably want to start with social events before you dive into rituals. So you want to look for things like Witches Night Out, insert your town's name here. Witches Tea, insert your town's name here. And these also often take place about once a month or several times a year under normal circumstances. Unfortunately, some of them have entered into the popular culture, and people are showing up for teas and pub crawls dressed like witches, and it really doesn't have anything actually to do with witchcraft. It's just fun. So you do want to take a close look at that. For your larger annual events, we have Pagan Pride Day. Pagan Pride has festivals every summer all over the place. They usually have them in August, depending on they do try to all kind of have them around the same time throughout. It's international now, throughout the world. But some communities have them a little later or a little earlier, but it's usually around in the harvest season, late summer, early autumn. This summer, of course, they were canceled. Um, but hopefully next year we will have pagan pride festivals all over the place. Uh, Many communities also have a witches ball. We have ours in October. Some communities have a Beltane ball or a midsummer ball, so you can search that. Many states have pagan festivals or conventions at least once a year in normal years. So go ahead and pop those into your search engine too. When you are ready for rituals, look for pagan temples. They are out there. Also, pagan retreat centers. They exist as well. Um, and also look into your local Unitarian church to see if they have a CUPS chapter. That's CUUPS. That stands for the Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans. They um, they actually have uh, regular church services, um, often Sabbath right in the your Unitarian Universalist church. So that's also a possibility for you. And of course, go back to that metaphysical store. Um, See if they're doing rituals there. Peeking again at my comments. Some of these events are going to cost you money. People do put a lot of work into them, and some of them are required to pay for the space where they are hosting the event. There are a lot of folks in the magical community who frown on charging for spiritual services, and gatherings may be included in this opinion. But your hosts have put together an event for strangers. They could just hang out with their friends, or they could stay home with their families, or go to a paying job that day. They do not need to do this for you. Paying a fee for an event is an act of love and respect and gratitude. If they don't require a fee but they accept love donations, please pay it. They are providing you a valuable service, and it is super, super stressful. I speak from experience. I told you in the last video that you don't have to buy expensive tools. Spend your money instead supporting the people who work hard to build your magical community. Um, as far as we, what we need, we need a witch listing website. And I did, we used to have Witchvox. We had Witchvox for years, but it shut down not too long ago. I think about a year ago, a little under a year. And when it did, I added the ability to submit listings on the Wikipedia community page, but literally no one has used it yet. I did announce it on Twitter, but the only listing on there is the test listing I put up. Um, I don't know if it's too hard to use, or people just don't know about it, or if people are using something else, or they just prefer to use Eventbrite and Facebook and things like that. But I know there's stuff going on. I know it's out there. I know you can find it. You just can't find it on the Wikipedia. There may be other sites out there that I don't know about. I do know that there are lots of local sites for states and cities. And of course, there are lots of covens, temples, metaphysical shops that have their own listings as well. So you want to check those sites out. Your search engine is your friend. If you know of a listing site, um, add it in the comments so people can find them. That would be awesome. And also, remember, we do have virtual events on the Wikipedia Discord and here on Facebook Live, of course. And the schedules for those are community.wikipedia.com.